I thought I was doing the right thing, the noble thing. She cheated, I stayed. I told myself I was working for the greater good of me and her, my kids, and my entire family. But the truth is that I was afraid. I was afraid of losing everything. I was afraid that I wasn't good enough. I was afraid that if I lost her forever, that I would never find someone who would love me again. I was afraid of admitting that the life that I had built, that everything that I had worked for was crumbling down right in front of me, and I was going to do anything and everything I could to save it. But here's the truth that no one tells you. Sometimes staying isn't strength. Sometimes it's just fear wearing a mask of nobility. I sacrificed my masculinity for comfort. I traded my own self-respect for the illusion of stability, and it almost destroyed me. Did you know that 54.5% of marriages end after infidelity? But what about the ones that don't? What happens to the men who stay? That's the part that no one likes to talk about. Today, I'm telling my story. The pain, the regret, the hard lessons I learned along the way. And if you're in this situation, and if you've been cheated on, or you think you've been cheated on, or you're worried about ever being cheated on, and you're asking yourself, should I stay or should I go? Then this episode is for you. Because I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to tell you the truth that I wish someone had told me. So if this hits home for you already, then drop a comment and say, I hear you. Because trust me, I know I'm not alone in this. Surviving infidelity doesn't mean just staying. It means asking yourself, what is this going to cost me? Because I guarantee you it's going to cost you more than just your marriage. It's going to cost you more than just your family. It could cost you your job. It could cost you your livelihood. It could cost you years of your life and an unimaginable amount of pain and suffering. Or it could be a chance to start over. That could be the cost. You could gain years of your life back. Like I said earlier, 54.5% of marriages end after infidelity. And only 15% of couples who decide to stay together after infidelity actually report long-term happiness. And my guess is that it's probably even less than that. I know that for the years that I tried to stay with my ex-wife, I was never really happy. I was never really satisfied. I never really trusted her. But I'll get into that in a minute. Men who stay after infidelity are 3 times more likely to suffer from depression and anxiety. Their self-esteem is lower significantly on average than men who leave a marriage or who never suffer from infidelity. Have you or someone you know ever stayed after infidelity? Whether that's in a marriage, whether that's in a relationship, or whether that's even in a job where someone has been unfaithful or betrayed you in some way. Because this principle doesn't just apply to marriages. Yes, it's specifically I'm addressing marriages, but it also applies to situations where you have been betrayed or been unfaithful in some other way. So what happened to me? I thought I was fighting for my marriage, but in reality, I was just afraid of losing. So what did happen? This was the summer of 2014, right after the worst day of my life. My kids had been taken into custody by CPS, and they were living with my mom and my sister. My wife had been arrested for reckless endangerment of a child, and she had been bailed out, and we were fighting through these legal battles and trying to figure out what to do next. I had convinced myself, because of how I was raised and how the importance of family and all of these things that I had grown up with, that the most important thing for me to do was to try to rebuild my family and to try to get everyone back together. I was delusional, but that's what I wanted because that's how I was raised. That's how I grew up thinking. There was a piece of me, I had people pulling me from all directions. My family said, run away from her. Well, not all of them. Most of them, the general sentiment was, get away from her. Get your kids back. Get your life back together. Her parents encouraged me to stay. I had members from church. I had some that told me that I should stay and try to work things out regardless. And then I had other people who were telling me, Andrew, separate yourself. The best thing for you and those kids is for you to get them back and to take care of them and let the chips fall where they may. Well, because I was desperate, because I was codependent, to use that word. I felt like I wouldn't be able to survive without her. And so I was trying to do anything and everything I could to try to maintain that relationship, in some ways to the neglect of my own children. And I regret that to this day, but there's nothing I can go back. I can't go back and change that. I hate this phrase. It is what it is. But since it's in the past, it truly is what it is, and I can't go back and change it, but I can only move forward from here. So it was this summer of 2014, after all of that had transpired, and I had been granted visitation to go see my children on the weekends up at my mom's house. And so even though I would leave my wife home for the weekend, and I would go up and see the kids for the weekend, and there was a part of me that was like, yeah, I know I got to go see the kids, but I also know that she's struggling and dealing with difficulties emotionally. Well, she started to tell me that she was meeting all these cool people and that she was starting to hang out, and she met this friend. And she was always hanging out with this friend. And she was talking with this friend on the phone. And like there would be times where I remember one time I was driving home from visiting my children, and I was a wreck because it was a very emotional weekend, and I just felt like I wanted to go home and I wanted to talk to somebody. And I called her and I told her that I was on my way home, and she said she was out with her friend Jenna. I said, can you please come home? I just need someone to talk to. Well, it turns out this whole time, Jenna and these friends that she was talking to, on this one particular weekend where I had gone to visit the kids, she had gone on Craigslist and she had found some random guy that she wanted to hang out with and spend time with. And they ended up in a long-term, well, not long-term, it was like about 6 weeks. 6 weeks of an affair that I only discovered that she never came forward to me about. I figured it out because I traced phone logs and different things like that. And when I finally figured out, it was like a punch in the gut. Like here I was doing all this work, trying to keep my family together, trying to save my marriage, trying to rebuild my relationship with my kids and my wife. I was trying to maintain a job and a household. I was trying to do all these things. And she had the audacity to cheat on me. Eventually, at one point, like she's told me that it was over, and then found out that it wasn't over. And then at one point, she actually did say it's over 100%, Andrew. And that particular time, again, because I was so desperate, I went back. But I never trusted her again. So if you're ever in a relationship, if you feel like you can't trust that other person, chances are it's not the problem isn't with you. Sometimes it is, but chances are that person has done something that's irreparable. If they're running around behind your back, or here's a big one, if they're accusing you of cheating, if they're accusing you of being flirtatious, if they're accusing you of all these things, chances are it's on them. So if there's a little whisper that's telling you those things, trust that little whisper. Trust but verify. Do whatever you can to verify. But if you can't ever get to the point where you trust a person again, it's pointless being in a relationship with them. But I was justifying, and guess what? She proved me right multiple times. She cheated on me with at least 4 total different people before she said she wanted to separate, before she came to me and said she wanted a divorce. And I'm the one that stuck around through all of those. But there was something that was eroding inside of me. I felt pieces of myself being stripped away constantly. I lost my masculinity. I lost trust in myself. I couldn't trust her, and I couldn't trust me. My self-worth was fading away. I second-guessed every decision I made, whether it had to do with her or the kids or anything else. I felt less than a man. I felt like I was walking on eggshells all the time, just hoping that I was wrong, that it wasn't going to happen again. Eventually, down the road, when she actually ran off with another guy to another state, that I finally was like, okay, all right. There's nothing I can do about this. Even biblically, I am completely absolved of ever trying anymore with this. I wasn't saving my marriage. I wasn't doing myself any good. I wasn't doing my kids any good. I was sacrificing myself. And yes, men are called to a life of sacrifice, but not like this. This is not the type of sacrifice that God or man or anyone asks us to make. This is beyond that. And like, I sacrificed a lot. It was almost 2 years from the time that I first found out that she was cheating on me to the time when she told me she wanted a divorce. And then it was another 6 or 8 months after that that I finally was like, all right, fine, you can have your divorce. And it still took me time after that. I still prayed. I still hoped. I still longed for that. I still missed having someone to talk to every day. I still missed having someone that I could go home and just check in with. I still feel that way sometimes. I still feel like I want to go home sometimes and have someone to just, man, it was a crazy day, or you should have seen this patient, or whatever it is that I want to talk about. So if you're still following along with the flow of the video, comment, I know what you mean, down below. So what is the cost of staying? Sometimes leaving isn't quitting. It's refusing to stay somewhere that you're not respected. Women generally need love. Men need respect. Respect is just as important to men as love is to women, if not more so. Me staying was a loss of my own self-respect, prolonged pain, and ongoing trust issues that I developed with women, not just with her, but with every other woman. Like every woman I've had a relationship with since then, there's been a certain level of mistrust. And it takes a long time to rebuild that. I doubted who I was. I doubted every decision that I made up until that point, and from there on. Like, did I do the right thing? Did I not do the right thing? Should I go this way? Should I go that way? Should I talk to this person, not talk to that person? Once again, I became awkward and shy in front of women. I became someone who I had a difficult time in social gatherings for a long time because I had lost all that trust in myself. So me leaving eventually was how I saved myself. It was eventually going to happen. She just left, and I could have chosen to hang on to that, but I did eventually just have to let her go. And I learned how to forgive her. I talked in another episode about a bitter wind and what it taught me about forgiveness. So if you want to know more about that, check out this episode right here. But just because I forgive her doesn't mean that I have to tolerate her disrespect. I did forgive her. I have, and I work constantly about forgiving her. That doesn't mean I forget. That doesn't mean that I trust. That doesn't mean any of that. It means that I have let go of the burden that it places on me. It no longer burdens me. I no longer worry about her anymore. Even when we were separated, even when we were divorced, I still was like, okay, I wonder if she's okay. I hope she's okay. Maybe she needs money. I was pathetic. I don't worry about that anymore. Healing isn't about moving on. It's about moving forward as a stronger person. These principles, while I'm generally speaking primarily to men, if you're a woman in this situation, the same principles can apply to you. So how do you rebuild your masculinity and take your manhood back, or womanhood? How do you rebuild yourself? So what steps can you take to rebuild your masculinity and restore your identity to what it once was? Step 1, acknowledge the pain. Don't suppress it, feel it, process it. One of my favorite animals in the world right now is a buffalo. And the thing that makes a buffalo unique is that one of the few animals on earth that when they see a storm coming, rather than running away and trying to escape it, they turn into the storm and they face it and they get through to the other side faster than anyone else. Because here's a little secret. If you're running away from that storm, the storm will eventually catch you. And if you're continuing to move away from it, you're going to be in that storm for longer. But if you turn around and face it and walk through it going the other way, you'll get to the other side faster than anybody else. Step 2, surround yourself with strong men. Isolation is your enemy. Early on, I was isolated. I was in a new town. I didn't know anybody. But when I started to surround myself with people at church, with people in recovery, with just friends, people at the gym even, I started to grow. They started to encourage me. They didn't even have to know what my story was. And they encouraged me to be a better version of myself. And when I say strong, I don't mean like physically strong. They don't have to be physically strong. That's great. But I mean strong in character. Strong as men, strong as husbands, strong as fathers, strong as individuals. So that's number 2. Number 3, reclaim your self-worth. What do I mean by that? If there's something that you've always wanted to do, get in shape, make a bunch of money, be successful, whatever it is, start to do those things. Build up the disciplines that you need to make that life for yourself. Level up. If you're at level 0, go to level 1. If you're at level 1, go to level 2. And each level, you're going to learn new things about yourself. And you're going to realize that you can be that person that you want to be, that you always thought you were before, that was destroyed by that infidelity. Number 4, set boundaries. When you step outside of that relationship and you finally decide that it's time to end it, don't go back into it. Because then you're just undoing all the progress that you're made, and you're asking for more trouble. You're asking for even worse trouble because now you've compromised yourself once again. So even if you still have to interact with that person because you have kids or finances are involved, every single situation that you're in with them, demand their respect and set boundaries and don't allow them to cross them. Those boundaries are going to be what saves you in the end. And number 5, embrace faith and forgiveness. But again, that forgiveness doesn't mean you have to stay. That forgiveness doesn't mean you have to trust. That forgiveness doesn't mean that you have to forget. You still have to do those other things like the boundaries. You still have to do that, but you can forgive and find a faith. Go to church. Find other people in that situation. Turn back to God. Speaking of God, there's some scriptures that speak to what I'm talking about. Proverbs 27:17 says, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. And that speaks to the idea that you need to surround yourself with a strong community. 1 Corinthians 16:13. Be watchful, stand firm in the faith, act like men, be strong. Be who you are. Reclaim that masculinity by figuring out what you need, by figuring out what it is that you want and really want in life. If you've been through this, drop a comment below. I hear you. Because no man should have to face this alone. I've been through it, and if you need someone to talk to, reach out to me, and I will definitely reach out to you. If you're struggling with this, reach out to other people around you. Find another brother. Again, you weren't meant to go through this alone. You don't have to reach out to me, but reach out to somebody. If this hits home for you, subscribe for more conversations like this. Real, authentic conversations. Next time, we're talking about how men can rebuild trust, whether that's in themselves or in their relationships with others. I hope this resonated with you, and I will see you next time.
So if you like this content, please give it a rating, a review, and share it with your friends. Also, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about me and what I'm all about and what I can maybe do for you, check out my website at thedangerousgentleman.org. That's thedangerousgentleman.org. Thank you for listening.